You know, we have this collective tendency to treat our morning routines a lot like entering a cheat code into an old video game.
Oh, totally. Like up, up, down, down.
Right. Up, up, down, down, wake up at 4 a.m., drink some room temperature lemon water, meditate for exactly 12 minutes on a cold, hard floor, and boom.
Unlimited wealth and productivity unlocked.
Exactly. You force yourself out of bed while it is still like pitch black outside. You're shivering, just staring at the ceiling, fully convinced that because some billionaire in Silicon Valley does this, it is the absolute mandatory sequence to conquer your day.
Yeah, it is entirely treated like an algorithm. We just assume human beings operate on this really rigid input-output system.
Right.
Like if you just input the mathematically correct sequence of grueling morning habits, you will output immense worldly success.
And we're completely obsessed with finding that perfect sequence. But our mission for this deep dive is to explore why trying to optimize your morning by, copy-pasting the habits of highly successful people might actually be the exact thing ruining your day.
Yeah, which is a wild thought, but it's true.
It is, and we're drawing on a really fascinating stack of sources to figure this out today. We've got a recent analysis of a viral LinkedIn post by Richard Branson, alongside some really compelling insights from Oliver Burkeman, who is a best-selling author focusing on productivity, and Rachel Barr, a neuroscientist.
And they are all essentially pointing to the very same highly counterintuitive conclusion here.
Which is so interesting.
But it feels incredibly timely, too, We are living through an era of absolute information overload when it comes to productivity advice.
Oh, for sure. It's everywhere.
Everywhere you look, you are being sold a rigid, standardized recipe for success. But today, we are going to completely dismantle that approach. We are going to look past this relentless push to, optimize every waking second and actually examine the neurological science of morning habits.
Because the ultimate life hack we are going to uncover might just be ignoring the productivity gurus altogether.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the allure of the billionaire morning is honestly undeniable. I mean, the sources point out some of the most famous examples, and they are wild.
Very wild. And heavily scrutinized.
Right. They're quirky. They're very specific. Like, you have Apple's Tim Cook and his notoriously strict 4 a.m. wake-ups.
Yeah.
You have Steve Jobs, who apparently looked in the mirror every single morning and asked himself this rather intense, morbid question about whether he would want to do what he was about to do if it were the last day of his life.
Which is just setting a very heavy existential tone before your brain has even fully booted up for the day.
I know, right? Imagine doing that before coffee. And then on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, you have Jeff Bezos.
Oh, the puttering.
Yes. His morning secret to a clear, focused mind is just puttering. He explicitly blocks out time to just putter around his house, read the paper, drink coffee.
Which sounds lovely, honestly.
It does. But as much as we love reading these details, we tend to cross the line. We stop looking at them as interesting biographical trivia and start looking at them as instructional manuals for our own lives. And the absolute pinnacle of this, like the holy grail of the go-getting morning routine, belongs to Richard Branson.
Right, the founder of the Virgin Empire. I mean, in productivity circles, his daily schedule is treated with a sort of reverence.
It is the final boss of morning routines. The man is a 75-year-old billionaire, and according to the sources, he still routinely gets up at 5 a.m.
5 a.m., yeah.
But he doesn't just wake up and slowly ease into the day. No, he immediately engages in high-intensity, hyper-optimized habits. We were talking tennis matches. We were talking kite surfing.
Kite surfing. At an hour when most of our circadian rhythms are still demanding deep REM sleep.
Kite surfing before the sun is even fully up. And then he follows that up by eating daily meals that are, get this, specifically designed for him by a Harvard-trained cancer doctor.
Wow.
You look at that intimidating, ultra-disciplined living plan and think, well, clearly, that is the secret. We treat these routines like a software patch.
Oh, I like that.
You think if you could just force your hardware to download the Branson 5.0 update into your brain, it will automatically compile into billions of dollars, boundless energy, and like a private island.
The software patch analogy captures the absurdity perfectly, I think, because you are trying to install an operating system that was never designed for your specific hardware.
Right.
And here is the central irony of our entire obsession with these titans of industry. We look to them for the ultimate life hacks, just assuming they have figured out the mathematically optimal way to exist. But the very man with perhaps the most enviable, high-achieving routine of all, Richard Branson himself, has just explicitly come out and told everyone to stop doing it.
Which is crazy. The guy with the supposedly perfect routine is going out of his way to tell us the perfect routine is a complete myth.
Right. What's fascinating here is the specific reasoning he provides. So this all stems from a recent, highly publicized post he made on LinkedIn.
Okay.
People are constantly asking him about waking up at 5 a.m., just assuming it is his secret weapon. But Branson warns against blindly following his routine, or frankly, anyone else's routine.
Yeah.
He made a confession that completely undercuts the entire guru industry. He stated that waking up at 5 a.m. and exercising is just something that comes very naturally to his specific biology.
Oh, wow.
It is not a universal secret to success. It is just his personal default setting.
So he is basically saying, I didn't crack the secret code of human output. I'm just naturally a morning person who happens to really enjoy kite surfing.
Precisely. And he actually goes a step further, expressing real discomfort with the idea that his natural habits are being weaponized by the productivity industry.
Weaponized. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
He worries that his routine is just adding to the sheer volume of noise out there, the rigid, punishing schedules being pushed online by influencers who try to sell you a standardized path to greatness.
Right. Buy my course and wake up at 4 a.m.
Exactly. Branson is surveying this landscape and basically pleading with people, please don't use my life choices to make yourself miserable.
I understand that perspective. I really do. But I have to push back here on behalf of you, the listener.
Sure.
Because if you were trying to build a career or start a business or just, get your life together, you have probably been told a million times to embrace the grind.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't success fundamentally built on discipline? Isn't the whole point of growth doing the hard, uncomfortable things we don't want to do? Like, if we just wake up whenever our body feels like it and only do what comes naturally and comfortably, aren't we just giving ourselves a free pass to be lazy?
That is a very fair point, and that is the exact tension the source material addresses. It's a trap most of us fall into. We conflate necessary discipline with unnecessary suffering.
Oh.
Branson is not advocating for zero discipline. He explicitly acknowledges that hard work, focus, and, pushing through difficult tasks are absolutely necessary to build anything meaningful.
Right. You can't just sleep until noon every day and run Virgin.
Right. You cannot just float comfortably through life and expect to build a global empire. But there is a massive biological and psychological difference between applying discipline to your actual work and forcing your biology into a generic, painful morning routine.
So you're saying we waste our discipline on the wrong things.
We absolutely do. Trying to squeeze yourself into a schedule that actively fights your natural inclinations doesn't build character. It just drains your cognitive reserve.
Wow, yeah.
You are spending all your willpower just trying to exist in the morning before you have even tackled a single meaningful work problem.
That makes so much sense.
The goal, according to Branson, isn't to maximize discipline for the sake of discipline. The goal is to create what he calls a rhythm that's sustainable.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because Branson's message is essentially, don't be me, be you. And on the surface, that sounds like a generic platitude you'd find on a greeting card.
Yeah, it really does.
It sounds like a billionaire just being falsely humble. But this deep dive isn't about fluffy advice. The sources actually bring in hard psychological and neurological evidence that completely backs Branson up, showing exactly why forcing a copied routine destroys your day.
Yeah, and that brings us to Oliver Burkeman's analysis. He has spent years dissecting these productivity trends, and he argues that traditional self-help advice, especially the kind pushing these rigid, punishing morning checklists, is fundamentally flawed.
Right.
He points to a psychological phenomenon he calls the trap of stringent targets.
Okay, let's define these stringent targets, because I think everyone listening has set one at some point. It is that Sunday night motivation where you decide you are going to overhaul your entire life by Monday morning.
Exactly. You decide you want to be hyper-productive, so you create this fantasy version of yourself.
Yes.
You set an eye-wateringly early wake-up time, combined with a brutal wellness checklist. You tell yourself, I'm going to wake up at 4:30 a.m., run 5 miles in the dark, meditate for 20 minutes, and read a chapter of a dense business book before my kids even wake up.
Right, and Berkman explains that setting these targets almost always backfires. Not because you lack moral fortitude, but because of how your brain processes failure. Unless you are naturally wired for that specific schedule, the friction is just too high. When that 4:30 alarm goes off, reality hits.
Oh, yeah, it hits hard.
You inevitably hit snooze, you skip the run, and what happens psychologically when we do that?
Well, you trigger a cascade of negative emotion. You feel like a complete failure before you have even eaten breakfast.
Which is terrible.
It is. You have essentially manufactured a scenario where you start your day in a psychological deficit. And that feeling of guilt and inadequacy actively saps your motivation, your dopamine, and your drive for the rest of the day.
Wow.
By trying to enforce perfect discipline, you actively sabotage your actual productivity.
It's like forcing yourself to wear Richard Branson's literal prescription glasses.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. You put them on thinking, if I wear these, I will have the vision of a billionaire. I'll see the world the exact way he does.
But those lenses were ground for his specific corneas, not yours.
Exactly. So instead of seeing the road ahead clearly, you just give yourself a massive, debilitating headache. Everything becomes blurry, you feel nauseous, and you end up crashing the car. You are on what Berkman perfectly describes as a futile quest to become someone you aren't.
Yeah, that glasses analogy gets right to the heart of the issue. You are adopting the tool without considering the biology of the user.
Totally.
And this failure isn't just a matter of feeling a little disappointed in yourself. There is a deep neurobiological mechanism at play here that explains exactly why this backfires. This is where the insights from neuroscientist Rachel Barr are so illuminating.
Oh, I love this part.
She uses a brilliant term for this phenomenon. She calls it the cold plunge fallacy.
The cold plunge fallacy. I mean, I see literal cold plunges all over my social media feeds. People hacking through ice to sit in freezing water before dawn.
Yeah, it's everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And while some people genuinely enjoy them, the fallacy Barr is talking about is the metaphorical beliefs surrounding them. The cold plunge fallacy is this widespread cultural belief that engaging in a rigorous, extreme, and deeply uncomfortable morning habit will somehow magically transform you into a highly optimized person.
Like it's some sort of alchemy.
Right. It is the Puritan work ethic applied to morning routines. It's the assumption that if an activity is painful and you hate doing it, it must be inherently good for you.
We totally equate suffering with virtue.
We do.
If I am shivering on a yoga mat at 4:15 a.m., regretting all my life choices, I convince myself that this specific misery is forging me into a CEO.
But Barr points out that, neurologically speaking, this is entirely backward. If we connect this to the bigger picture, her core conclusion is simple but profound. Habits you genuinely do not like just make you unhappy.
Yeah.
And an absolute mountain of scientific data shows that unhappiness actively hampers performance, focus, and long-term success.
Okay, this completely reframes the conversation for me. We usually think of a grueling routine as something that gives us a competitive edge, even if it makes us miserable. But you are saying the misery itself is dulling the edge. How exactly does that work in the brain?
Well, when you force a naturally late sleeper into a punishing 4 a.m. routine they hate, their brain interprets that forced friction as a threat.
Like a literal physical threat.
Yes. You trigger a stress response. Your body releases cortisol, the stress hormone. And when cortisol spikes, your brain literally redirects blood flow and resources away from your prefrontal cortex.
Wait, away from the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain responsible for problem solving, right?
Exactly. It controls your executive function, your creativity, your cognitive flexibility.
Oh, wow.
So by stressing yourself out with a miserable routine, your cognitive flexibility drops, your ability to solve complex problems diminishes.
That is wild.
That punishing morning routine you thought was turning you into a high performer is biologically making you less adaptable and less creative for your actual workday.
So it's literally making you worse at your job.
Exactly. Barr notes that the practices you choose for your mental health and your morning routine absolutely must align with what your brain naturally needs. And she emphasizes that these routines should, in most cases, actually feel quite good.
Feel quite good. I mean, that phrase is almost taboo in the productivity space.
It really is.
The idea that your morning shouldn't feel like a punishment is treated like heresy. But if forcing yourself to be miserable is biologically proven to restrict blood flow to the problem-solving centers of your brain, then we need a completely new framework for how you, the listener, should actually design your day.
We have to throw out the guru playbook entirely. And this brings us right back to why Branson's routine actually works for him. It is not because waking up at 5 a.m. to kitesurf has some mystical inherent superiority over, say, waking up at 8 a.m. and having a cup of tea.
So what does this all mean? How do we actually apply this if we aren't supposed to copy the billionaires?
It means Branson's routine works for him solely because it aligns with his natural biological preferences. That alignment is what creates consistent forward momentum. Because he genuinely wants to get on the kiteboard, the friction is incredibly low. He doesn't have to burn precious cognitive resources to make it happen.
Right.
If you copy and paste that routine into your life, unless you share his exact chronotype and psychological profile, you will not experience that momentum. You will just be cold, wet, tired, and depleted before your workday even begins.
Yeah. The real secret isn't the specific habit. It's the alignment of the habit with the individual's hardware.
Exactly.
Which shifts the entire paradigm of self-improvement. The actionable advice here, like the alternative to copy-pasting a guru's routine, isn't about white-knuckling your way through discipline and denial.
Yeah.
It is about treating yourself as a subject of experimentation.
You have to gather data on yourself rather than trying to program yourself like a machine. And Berkman suggests a highly effective alternative framework to the stringent checklist. He focuses on what he calls small, early wins to power your daytime productivity.
I love the concept of small, early wins. What does that actually look like in practice, neurologically speaking?
Well, instead of a massive, daunting checklist that triggers cortisol, you find one or two small things that genuinely light you up.
Right.
Things that offer low friction but high reward. When you accomplish a small, enjoyable task, your brain releases a hit of dopamine.
Nice.
That dopamine makes you feel competent, happy, and energized. It acts as biological fuel, propelling you into the next, more difficult task of the day.
So you are manufacturing positive momentum instead of starting the day in a deficit.
Exactly. Maybe your small early win is reading a fiction book for 15 minutes with your coffee. Maybe it's taking a slow walk with no headphones to just let your mind wander.
Or maybe it really is just allowing yourself to sleep in until 7:30 a.m. because your specific chronotype does its best analytical work in the late morning.
Yes, exactly.
It reminds me of the Jeff Bezos approach to puttering. Like, puttering sounds lazy until you realize it is a valid neurological strategy.
It really is.
He actively builds unstructured, low-stress time into his morning because that is exactly what his brain requires to process information and prepare for high-stakes decision-making. He isn't trying to beat Tim Cook. He's just figuring out how to be the most effective version of Jeff Bezos.
And that is how you find your sustainable rhythm. When you prioritize those small early wins that actually feel good, you build a positive psychological cascade. You start the workday feeling capable and aligned rather than feeling like you are already behind schedule and failing at someone else's arbitrary punishing standards.
This has been such a massive paradigm shift. I mean, we have journeyed from envying these extreme 4 a.m. wake-ups and Harvard diet kite surfing sessions to realizing that forcing those exact habits leads straight into the cold plunge fallacy.
Yeah.
We've unpacked the trap of stringent targets, and we've discovered the mechanism behind why fighting your biology actually makes you worse at your job.
It's pretty wild to think about.
It is. The ultimate takeaway, which is agreed upon by billionaires, productivity authors, and neuroscientists alike, is that to be truly successful, you must honor your own natural rhythms.
It is a deeply liberating realization, honestly. You do not need to change who you fundamentally are to be productive. You just need to leverage who you already are.
Absolutely.
Which, frankly, raises an important question for you, the listener, as you go about the rest of your day.
Oh, I like where this is going.
If the most successful people in the world achieve their greatness simply by leaning into their own peculiar natural rhythms, what weird, highly specific morning quirk of yours might actually be your greatest untapped superpower if only you stop trying to suppress it in the name of the 5 a.m. hustle?
That is the perfect question to leave on. What is your personal version of puttering? What is that one small thing you do that makes you feel great, that you've been secretly feeling guilty about just because it's not on some influencer's rigid checklist?
Right.
Figure that out, lean into it, and you might just unlock your actual potential. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, true productivity is about being well-informed and aligned, not stressed and overwhelmed. Stop waiting for the software patch to fix you, because your underlying operating system was perfectly fine all along. Catch you next time.